Welcome to Lesson 7, Creating Compositions. In this lesson, you're going to discover some tips and tricks to help you to organize and put your files together to create great compositions. So I'm starting out by creating a new file, and I'm just selecting International Paper from the presets and clicking OK. I'm now selecting File, Browse and Bridge, and I'm looking for my Advanced PS07 Lessons folder. And in there, I have a file that's called Street PSD. And so I'm opening that up. Now, if you notice, I have an image in here that has a mask applied to it. In fact, I can shift-click on that mask to see the entire image, so I can get back to that anytime I want. For right now, I want to take just the street, so I take my Move tool, I click on that image, and I drag it over to that untitled document I just created, and I drag it back down. Now I have the image in here, but it's not quite big enough. So I can press Command or Control T and reduce the size of this image. And you'll notice the mask is chained to this image, so it's reducing in size as well. When I'm done, I can press the Commit button. I'm going to save this file so that I can go back to it, and I'll just call it Advanced PS0701 Work. And you can put this in your desktop or in your Lesson 7 folder. Now I'm going to go back and select another image. So I'm selecting Browse and Bridge, and this time I'm opening up a file called Fixer Upper 1. And I want to also put this in my composition. Now notice I'm not placing my images. And the reason I'm not placing them is because I don't want to bring them in as smart objects. I will use that feature later. So I'm taking my Move tool and dragging up, selecting my work file and dropping this image in. Now I'm going to press Command T again and bring this down in size a little bit, maybe to about 56 or so. I'm holding my Shift key down to constrain the proportions, and then I'm pressing the Return or the Commit button. I'm lining this up so that the building is on that street view. I'm now opening another image. So I'm selecting Browse and Bridge, and I'm opening up the image that is called Fixer Upper 2. And when I open this up, I'm going to take this one over to my work file as well and drop it. I'm going to press Command T again and reduce it in size. Now I need to start considering how I'm going to mask these files, but there's some things I need to do first. So I'm just sliding this guy over. And I'm pressing the return key, saying that looks great, maybe just a little bit smaller, and repositioning it on the street. If you need help positioning items, you can press 5. 5 will change your layer to a 50% transparency, and then you can see a little bit better as you reposition your objects. And I'll give it a little bit of an overlap. I'll overlap that sign a little bit, and that works out fine. And then I'll press 0 to go back up to 100. Now I've got this street down here. It's called Straightened, that particular layer, and I want to slide it up to the top of the stacking order. You'll notice the color doesn't match exactly. It almost looks like it should be flipped. So I'm selecting Edit, Transform, and flipping just that layer horizontally. Now we've got a better match. I also need to do some masking here to blend this image in a little better with the one on the right. So I'm holding down my spacebar and my Command or spacebar and Control key if you're on the PC, just to zoom in a bit, and I'm using my hand tool to move this around. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this layer, layer 1, the building over to the right, and I'm going to make sure it's up on top of the buildings to the left. I'm going to click on the Add Layer Mask button, and I'm going to grab a hold of my paintbrush, right-click, and choose the Chalk 11 Pixel brush from the contextual menu that appears. Now when I have this brush, you'll notice it's very tiny, and if I press my right bracket, I can make it a little bit bigger. And I click off that contextual menu and press the right bracket about 13 times or so, and you'll see I have a larger brush. I have this mask I added, but nothing has happened on this mask yet. That's because it's white, which means nothing's being covered up. I happen to have white as my foreground color. I'm going to press X. Now I have black, and if I start painting, you'll notice that wherever I paint black, I'm covering up my image. If I press X, that swaps my black and white, and now I can paint that back in. In fact, I'm just going to do a select all to select everything on my mask, make the background white, and press the delete key to go back to an all white background. I've got my brush selected. I'm going to go down the line and paint in part of this building. Now you'll notice that I made a little mistake here. I can press X at any time and patch that up. In fact, if I want a straight line, I can have black selected, hold down, so I click once, I hold down the shift key, and I'll click down about at the top of that sign. And I can see that's not exactly straight, but that's okay. And I'm going to fill in this area over here. If I don't want this little area where the blue is, I can press X and I can paint that over as well. So by painting with a mask, you can easily add or delete information. Now here, I wasn't straight again, so I'm going to go ahead and click once, hold down my shift key, and shift click. I'm going to switch to black to trim that up nicely. And we've got a little better of a selection here. And I'll go back and work on that later. Now next, I'm going to take that same layer, make sure that I'm on the move tool and have nothing selected. I'd have this layer active, this one on the right here, and I'm going to click on the actual image instead of just the mask. You can see the difference here. The mask has 4 handles on it. The image has 4 handles on it. So if I come in here now with the image selected and select Filter, Adaptive Wide Angle, I can open up this image and you'll see that I can hold down my shift key and straighten out this image based upon some lines that are in the image. So I can say, follow that straight line. So once I have that straightened out, I can click OK. It's a little more straight. And now I'll go in and add a window up at the top here. So I'm selecting the clone stamp tool for this. And I'm going to Alt or Option click right on the window pane right here. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can start on this window pane and match it. And you'll see that now I can replicate that same window up at the top. But even though I'm using the clone tool, I can still do the same thing I did with my brush tool. And I can click once, and then I can shift click to connect my paths as well. So in this lesson, you got to start on how to create your composition. Throughout the book, you'll take this a little bit further, add some additional layers, and create a final composition.